to the finish with 15 days to go.
There are moments in the history of our country which challenge us, each of us.
We're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to make America great again.
The dead heat now between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris as they set their sights on the battleground state of Wisconsin as Harris brings former Congresswoman Liz Cheney onto the trail in an effort to get disenchanted Republicans on her side, while Trump meets with hurricane victims in North Carolina, doubling down on false claims about FEMA. What the polls are now saying is voters in Texas get their chance to vote early. Plus,
I take full responsibility for everything I did.
You say you've taken responsibility for what has been done. You still view this as a victimless crime?
Yes, ma'am.
He spent months in the headlines after his infamous Varsity Blues college cheating scandal landed some of the country's most elite behind bars, including at least 2 Hollywood-decorated actresses. Now, Rick Singer, the mastermind behind that scandal, is speaking out for the first time and telling his side of the story. And
we put in a different barrier in a residential neighborhood as they were driving across homes that are in the U.S., driving through their backyards and through their front yards to make an entry.
Smugglers.
Yes, smugglers.
the fight over immigration happening thousands of miles from where you'd often expect it to play out. Instead of the desert in Rio Grande, it's a migration set among towering trees and the Pacific Ocean. In tonight's Prime Focus, we're with the Border Patrol agents as they fight to combat a 10-year high of migrant encounters on the northern border. The thousands attempting to cross from Canada, what they're paying and why. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Tonight, we begin with the race for the White House. 15 days to go. I guess you could call it the home stretch. Millions of Americans have already voted, and former President Trump and Vice President Harris now crisscrossing the battlegrounds as a new poll out shows the race in all 7 battleground states is within the margin of error. Vice President Harris is campaigning with former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney in the Rust Belt states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Today, Cheney talked about Trump's behavior on January 6th, saying it's not about party, it's about right and wrong. Former President Trump spent time in the hurricane disaster zone in North Carolina, saying he's confident the storm will not affect the vote and that he's impressed with the efforts in that state. But it is his crude remarks about golf great Arnold Palmer that has many shaking their heads. Tonight, Palmer's daughter is weighing in. So as we enter this, the final sprint, our Rachel Scott is with the former president in North Carolina in a moment. But first, ABC's Mary Bruce is with the vice president in Wisconsin.
With just 15 days left in this hard-fought election, Vice President Kamala Harris today barnstorming the 3 Rust Belt states that could be key to her victory: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, hitting counties where she thinks she can pick up Republican votes.
Let's get to it.
With her at every stop, her most prominent Republican supporter, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
There are moments in the history of our country which challenge us, each of us, to really decide, do we stand for those things that we talk about, including a particular country over party.
In the Detroit suburbs, Cheney reminding voters what Donald Trump did on January 6th.
He sat in his dining room and he watched the attack on television. He watched it. People pleaded with him to tell the mob to leave and he wouldn't. And he watched law enforcement officers be brutally beaten. He watched it. That's a depravity that, to me, and you know, I think to anyone who's taken the oath of office, makes someone absolutely unfit ever to be president again. Now,
the Harris campaign well aware this race will come down to 7 key battleground states. Tonight, New Washington Post polling shows the contest beyond tight. Harris with a slight edge in Pennsylvania, up 2 points, 49-47. In Michigan, leading Trump 49-47. And in Wisconsin, Harris with a 3-point advantage, 50-47. She also leads slightly in Georgia, 51-47, while Trump has the advantage in Arizona, up 49-46, and in North Carolina, where Trump leads by 3 points, 50-47. And in Nevada, the polls have them tied, 48-48, all polls within the margin of error. With the race this close, the Harris team trying to reach every voter who may still be up for grabs. Cheney with this message to reluctant Republicans.
it's not about party. It's about right and wrong. I would just remind people, if you're at all concerned, you can vote your conscience and not ever have to say a word to anybody. And there will be millions of Republicans who do that on November 5th.
Mary Bruce joins us now from the campaign trail. And Mary, certainly the Harris campaign is tracking these polls very closely.
They are fully aware of what these polls say, that this race is neck and neck and that it could come down to these 7 critical states. It's why Liz Cheney tonight is trying to reach out to those hesitant Republicans, urging them, even if they aren't public about it, to put country ahead of party. Lindsay.
Mary Bruce from Wisconsin for us. Thanks so much, Mary. Meantime, former President Trump was in North Carolina, a state that he's actually won twice and hopes to win a third time. Tonight, the daughter of famed golfer Arnold Palmer is weighing in on what Trump said about her father over the weekend. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, Donald Trump zeroing in on battleground North Carolina, a state he won twice before and must win again. The former president in Asheville this morning, surrounded by debris from Hurricane Helene, saying he's confident the storm will not affect the vote.
No, I think in a way it's the opposite. I mean, we're so impressed, and I think they have a pretty good system here.
Tonight in the Greenville rally, Trump presenting the election as a stark choice.
This election is a choice between whether we will have think of this, 4 more years. Like, could you stand it? 4 more years of incompetence, stupidity, and failure and disaster, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
President Donald.
Trump has been on the blitz through the battleground states, over the weekend stopping in all-important Pennsylvania and making waves for his vulgar comments about former golf star Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women, but this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Tonight, Palmer's daughter criticizing those comments in an interview with ABC News.
To come there and talk about, hackneyed anecdotes from the locker room seemed disrespectful and inappropriate to me. The people in Western Pennsylvania deserve substance, not stories that intimate a closer relationship than actually existed.
And after this photo op at a McDonald's in suburban Philadelphia, Trump working the fry station in the drive-through window. The former president asked whether he would raise the minimum wage, which currently stands at $7.25. Trump only saying this.
Well, I think these people work hard. They're great. And I just saw a process that's beautiful.
Today, Vice President Kamala Harris calling Trump out.
So there is a big difference between Donald Trump and me on a number of issues, including this, where I absolutely believe we must raise minimum wage and that hardworking Americans, whether they're working at McDonald's or anywhere else, should have at least the ability to be able to take care of their family and take care of themselves in a way that allows them to actually be able to sustain their needs.
Rachel Scott joins us now. Rachel, the former president certainly spending a lot of time in North Carolina. What's up next on his itinerary in the days to come?
Yeah, he is going all in on North Carolina for the first part of this week, and that is because this is a must-win state for his campaign. He won here in 2016. He won here in 2020. His campaign believes that he needs to do it again in order to go to the White House. So he has another stop in this state tomorrow, and then his focus does turn to those critical Sun Belt states. We're talking about Arizona, where he's going to have a rally. Polls show that he's barely ahead there, and then he has another stop in Nevada, where polls show it is a dead heat, Lindsay.
So tight, neck and neck. All right, Rachel Scott, our thanks to you. Galen Druk joins us now. Galen, 15 days to go. Give us a state of the play at the polls.
All right, so nationally, Harris is leading by about 2 percentage points. But, of course, in the battleground states, it's closer. In Wisconsin, the polls are tied. In Michigan, tied. Pennsylvania, also tied.
Wow.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. Nevada, also tied. So we see that in North Carolina, Trump leads by about 1, and then in Georgia and Arizona, he leads by about 2. But when you round those, tenths of a percentage point, we see that the bulk of the battleground states in this moment are tied.
I know that we've heard about conservative pollers basically flooding the zone here. What kind of impact could that have?
So what this refers to is Republican-aligned pollsters putting out polls that are more positive for Trump, trying to shift the averages to suggest that he has momentum going into the final weeks of the race. And at 538, we looked into that. And indeed, there are more Republican-aligned pollsters putting out polls than Democratically aligned pollsters by a significant clip. However, if we remove those polls altogether from the averages, it only moves the national average 0.3 of a percentage point. So I can't tell you what the motivations of any particular pollsters are. Maybe they are trying to flood the zone. But even if that is the case, they aren't moving the polls all that much. They may, though, be sort of shifting some of the narrative, suggesting that Trump has more momentum. So something we can continue to be on the lookout for.
All right, so let's talk about the polling error in 2020 and 2016 in particular, and what it would look like if we had that same 4-point kind of deficit this time.
Yeah, so Linsey, the fact of polling is that we should expect error. The average polling error in a presidential election is 4 percentage points. In 2016, the error was 3 percentage points, but it was sort of on the wrong side of the end result, so it felt more emotional. But 2020 was a worse than usual year. That year, there was a 5 percentage point error nationally. If we were to see something like that this time around, if the polls are underestimating Trump, then Trump would win clearly. If the polls are underestimating Harris, then Harris would win clearly. So in some ways, we should be ready for 3 outcomes. If the polls are exactly accurate, right? If the pollsters have fixed some of the challenges they faced in 2016 and 2020, undercounting those Trump voters, then we may be in for a long slog and may not even be able to project it on election night. But if we see errors similar to either of those gears, actually, we may have a clear result if the polls are actually wrong this time around.
Well, I know this is kind of your bread and butter, the polls, right? But how much faith do you have in them?
I love that question, Linsey. And the reality is that I have as much faith in the polls as I have in any other method of trying to get a sense of what the American public thinks. The reality is that although the polls are error-prone and flawed, we don't have a better way of getting a sense of what the American public thinks. You know, I could go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and ask 4 or 5 people in a diner or on Main Street what they think, but I'm not going to get anywhere close to a representative sample if I do that. What pollsters are ultimately doing is they are calling up close to 1,000 people, say nationally, or maybe 700 people or 500 people in a battleground state to try to get a more representative sample than if I, as a reporter, just went to one place in Arizona or Nevada and talked to the first handful I could. It's applying the scientific method to trying to understand what Americans think. And in a democracy, I think we should all care what Americans think.
So fascinating. Could talk to you all night about this, Galen Druk, and we will be doing just that in the coming 15 days to Election Day. Galen Druk, our thanks to you as always.
Thank you.
Now to the investigation into a deadly helicopter crash in Houston. The fire images after a private chopper slammed into a radio tower, killing all 4 people on board, including a child. And now we learn days before the crash, the FAA warned about the lights on that tower. Maria Villarreal reports from the scene.
Tonight in Houston, 4 people, including a child, are dead. An investigation underway after the helicopter they were in crashed into a 1,000-foot-tall radio tower and exploded.
Get out the way, let's go, let's go.
The fireball crashing into an open field near a residential area. No one on the ground was hurt. Our Houston station, KTRK's traffic reporter, Don Armstrong, saying the radio tower is hard to see, even in daytime.
It's not painted well, and the lights are not the strobes that some of the towers around town have on them. So if you know where the tower is, you navigate around it. But in this case, apparently, that was not the case.
3 days before the incident, the FAA posted a notice warning that some of the tower's lights were, quote, unserviceable. In this surveillance video, it appears at least one light on the tower is on as the chopper approaches from the right.
Maria joins us now from the crash scene there in Houston. Maria, give us a description of the surrounding area.
Well, Linsey, right behind me, about 100 yards, that's the actual crash scene. And, you know, right now investigators are walking around this location, and also you can hear them working on cutting through some of that steel as we speak. You know, the debris field actually covers a 4-mile radius, and this is a very busy neighborhood. Lots of restaurants, people that live here. So authorities are telling people right now, listen, if you find anything, you know, while you're at work or while you're at home, give us a call because it could be helpful to this investigation. Linsey?
All right, asking for the public's help there. Maria Villarreal, our thanks to you. Now to new images from the desperate moments after the catastrophic failure of an aluminum walkway from the shore to the dock where a boat was waiting in Georgia. About 20 people plunged into the water, some hanging on, others pulled to safety, but 7 people died, all of them between 73 and 93. And tonight, survivors are speaking out about the rescues and the people who were lost. Here's ABC's Faith Abube in Georgia.
Tonight, dramatic new video showing the chaotic scene after a dock gangway collapse in Georgia that killed 7 people. Oh my God, where's mine? A dozen victims seen in the water, desperately holding on to the railings. It was after a celebration on Sapelo Island for the Gullah Geechee community, descendants of enslaved Africans. Please, Lord. Witnesses telling us they heard a loud crack Saturday afternoon, and then suddenly the aluminum walkway plunged into the water.
We were trying to throw out the life jackets, but the current was so hard it was just taking people away.
Diane Medley Bloodworth was thrown into the water with her 80-year-old aunt, Bertha.
And I came up screaming for Auntie. And I didn't see her at first. And I see her hanging onto a rope that was just hanging off of the pier there.
Her Aunt Bertha rescued by college student Catherine Sneed.
I heard a voice saying, "Help me, I can't swim." So I ran towards the edge of the dock. I got on my stomach and I reached my hands out and Miss Bertha grabbed me.
Catherine and Bertha reuniting in the hospital, where Bertha remains in the ICU. Among the 7 who lost their lives, 93-year-old retired school teacher Carlotta McIntosh, Charles Houston, a beloved chaplain, and tragedy striking the family of Zelda Johnson, who lost her cousin Queen Welch, the two taking this photo moments before the accident. Zelda also losing her husband, William Johnson II, a father of 2.
So heartbreaking. And Faith Abube joins us now. Faith, what comes next in the investigation?
Well, Linsey, investigators are zoning in on that collapsed walkway. We saw it being hauled out of the water. It's now at a secured facility being examined as part of this investigation. Officials have said a preliminary assessment shows the gangway suffered a catastrophic structural failure, even though it was built just 3 years ago. Linsey.
All right, Faith Abube for us. Thanks so much, Faith. The White House is confirming an investigation into the unauthorized release of highly classified U.S. documents that assess Israel's plans to attack Iran. It comes as that advanced American air defense system operated by U.S. troops is now up and running in Israel. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burge reports from Israel again tonight.
Tonight, the Department of Defense and the FBI investigating how highly classified U.S. documents outlining Israel's preparations for a potential retaliatory strike against Iran were posted online. Allegedly detailing the number and type of missiles the Israeli military may be readying weeks after Iran launched 200 ballistic missiles at Israel. U.S. officials immediately launching an investigation after seeing markings that indicate the documents originated from the U.S. agency that gathers intel from satellite imagery, even admitting they aren't sure if this was a leak or a major security breach. ABC News is not quoting directly from or showing the documents, which appear to detail movement of Israeli military equipment and munitions that could be used in a potential strike. One of the documents claimed Israel could strike Iran without the US seeing any further visual clues from above. The White House tonight saying it's a serious concern for President Biden.
It's being investigated by the appropriate authorities. We're looking into it. Are we concerned? Yes. Are we very concerned? Yes, we're very concerned.
The leak comes days after US officials said they had reassurances from Israel that it would target military sites rather than oil or nuclear facilities. It is unclear whether this intelligence breach will impact those plans. But if Iran responds, the Pentagon has confirmed that powerful THAAD American air defense system, manned by 100 US troops, is now up and running.
Tom Sufi-Burge joins us now from Tel Aviv. And Tom, how has this impacted the already very intense situation there in the Middle East?
Yeah, Linsey, I think there is concern about the documents. It's hard to read right now what impact that potential leak may have. But what really matters right now is how Israel plans to attack Iran. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Sunday Israel is determined to change the security reality in this region for generations to come. Linsey?
No doubt. All right, Tom Sufi-Burge from Tel Aviv for us. Thanks so much, Tom. Now to the case making national headlines. The first person set to be executed in the U.S. for shaken baby syndrome. Tonight, the high-profile supporters, including author John Grisham, defending the Texas father. Here's Matt Gutman.
Tonight, the latest twist in a Texas death penalty showdown. Robert Robertson, the first person facing execution in a case of shaken baby syndrome, was supposed to appear today before state lawmakers, but was blocked by the governor. Instead, his high-profile supporters fighting to save his life.
I am 100% convinced that we're facing a miscarriage of justice here.
Talk show host Dr. Phil McGraw has visited him on death row.
If we start executing people in Texas absent due process, absent fair trial, we are going down a really dangerous road.
2 days ago, Robertson's execution for the murder of his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki, was put on hold minutes before he was set to die by lethal injection. In 2002, doctors and prosecutors had said Nikki had died from shaken baby syndrome, a diagnosis that has been challenged by medical experts in recent years. Robertson's lawyers argue Nikki died from pneumonia and medication. Today, novelist John Grisham pushing for a new trial.
Put the jury in the box and let's have a fair trial. That's all we're asking for.
Linsey, that hearing before the legislature, which had broad bipartisan support by Republicans and Democrats in the Texas House, was a last-ditch effort to try to save Robertson's life. Now, we understand there are negotiations that are ongoing right now to still get him to testify, possibly even by bringing that legislative committee to him on death row. Linsey.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see how that all plays out. Matt, thank you. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z is tracking a front moving across the country that caused severe flooding in New Mexico. And in the meantime, record temperatures from the Great Lakes into the Northeast. Hey, Ginger.
So, Linsey, out ahead of those storms, big-time ridge, and it's not moving much for the next couple of days. We actually saw a few records today from Boston back to Detroit. And we'll see more of those as the week goes on. Look at tomorrow's highs. Philadelphia could make it to a record of 82. Lots of folks feeling some 10 to 15 degrees above average, and that's not going to stop. I want you to see this 3-day forecast. Oklahoma City will touch close to a record, which would have to get to 89 on Wednesday. Dallas around 90. Phoenix staying in the 90s. And the rest there, very, very abnormally warm. And so, of course, it's not going to last forever. But we also have to check in on the tropics, right? And we had Tropical Storm Oscar. It already made 2 landfalls, but it's going to go for a third. Right now, it's got winds of 40 miles per hour, gusts up to 50. It's moving north-northwest at 7 miles per hour, but it's going to make a turn back toward the Bahamas. And with it came up to 10 inches of rain in eastern Cuba, and that's with all of their power issues they've been having. Turks and Caicos could pick up a half foot, as could the Bahamas, as this thing then jets out to sea as we end the week. Linsey?
I'm still stuck on those 80-degree days. Ginger, our thanks to you. So much more to get to here on Primer Conversation with the mastermind behind the Varsity Blues scandal. But next, immigration is certainly front and center with the election just days away. Up next, our journey to a border that you may not have heard as much about, the northern border.
They were 21 and 18 when they committed their crime, and they were raised in a house of hate. When can we as a society say we made a mistake?
Do you think the Menendez brothers will walk free someday?
I don't think that they deserve to be in prison until they die.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are stone-cold murderers.
Was this a miscarriage of justice?
Absolutely. This came down to one question. Do you believe the Menendez brothers or not?
The Menendez Brothers, Monsters or Victims, now streaming on Hulu.
A Hollywood studio want us to make a movie of our podcast.
It's a fabulous cast.
Action. I'm nervous playing you. The fearlessness, the complexity.
Oh, stop. Unless you had more to say.
I don't need an algorithm to tell me that this is box office gold.
Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and for bundle subscribers on Disney+.
Hi, my name is Patrice. I am a totally cool person with a disability. Patrice always sees the best side of life. And
just looked at her and I said, would you like to be my wife?
If you get married and you're collecting a Social Security benefit, your benefit will be cut.
I don't take anything for granted.
I don't see what anyone can see in anyone.
They're never gonna stop us from loving each other.
3, 2, 1.
It's a 24/7 life together.
It's not about the fear or the risk. It's about the love of flying. 3, 2, 1.
Did you kill Mary Yoder?
Sorry. No, I did not kill Mary Yoder.
This is a mystery. How did she die? They begin to do this autopsy.
It's just screaming, toxin, toxin, toxin.
Did somebody intentionally do this to her?
When the tests came back, I thought, yeah, holy, are you kidding me?
My garden club is very divided.
People think she's innocent. I think she's guilty.
Never heard of a case like this. Maybe a thriller.
I'm not buying this Little Miss Innocent game.
Little Miss Innocent, passion, poison, prison.
I know it wasn't me. Sorry. So, if it wasn't me, who was it?
Only on Hulu.
Welcome back, everyone. Former President Trump has made immigration a key campaign issue, but a part of our border that isn't talked about much, the northern border. Some sectors are seeing 10-year highs in Border Patrol encounters. In tonight's Prime Focus, our Maria Villarreal embedded with the Department of Homeland Security to see the unique challenges teams face along this rugged but beautiful stretch of land.
So this is a multi-year case. We did a lot of surveillance, took us all the way down to California. One of the key aspects of this case was that they would order Uber services. They would tell the people to cross the border, go this direction until you hit a road, sometimes in the cold, in the forest. I mean, there's nothing out there.
The details of this case laid out in a federal criminal complaint that led to a guilty plea, fine, and prison time.
They were able to get into the Uber. It would take them to a predestined location that was already input by the smuggler.
Already paid for.
Already paid for. And then they would meet them there and then begin that process of relocating them down to California.
You're looking at evidence collected by Border Patrol agents and Homeland Security investigators working to uncover and stop sophisticated human smuggling rings. HSI worked closely with Border Patrol, the Blaine Port Authority, and partners in Canada to take this smuggling ring down. It surfaced in 2018, quieted during the pandemic, and ramped back up after COVID. According to a federal complaint, investigators uncovered they had 17 connected Uber accounts that ordered more than 600 rides, racking up more than $80,000 in charges. But this didn't happen here along the southern border. It happened thousands of miles away, set within a picturesque backdrop that includes acres of towering trees and the Pacific Ocean shoreline. This is our country's northern border.
We've talked about the southern border, right? But it's everywhere. There's an increase in awareness because it's being localized better. It's not just a problem that's thousands of miles away. It's here.
Robert Hammer is HSI's special agent in charge of the Pacific Northwest.
Criminal investigations in the Pacific Northwest in general have been booming ever since the post-COVID restrictions have been lifted.
In 2023, this sector saw more than a 10-year high for Border Patrol encounters, and they're on pace to exceed that number in 2024. Thousands of people attempting to cross from Canada into the state of Washington undetected. HSI says many of them are from India, paying between $5,000 and $20,000 to be smuggled in.
They're recruiting. They have accounts dedicated towards advertising their smuggling services back in India so they can be smuggled in. And that's being marketed on these social media platforms. And so there's a constant game where we need to identify those, see who's operating those accounts, and working with the platforms to identify those account owners. It really speaks to the ingenuity, the creativity that these smugglers are coming up with in order to move this number of people.
How many people are we talking about?
And this organization was responsible for over 800 individuals coming in.
And how much money are we talking about here?
Pled guilty to accepting over $500,000 in smuggling fees.
And this is where it all starts, the lush green fields of Washington State.
We put in a different barrier in a residential neighborhood, and that was to prevent vehicles from driving into the neighborhood because they were driving across homes that are in the U.S., driving through their backyards and through their front yards to make an entry.
Smugglers?
Yes, smugglers.
We rode along with Border Patrol Sector Chief Rosario Vasquez. His agents cover all of Alaska, Oregon, and the western half of Washington State. The northern border is more than 5,000 miles long. That's twice the size of the southern border. And the biggest differences are really the barriers along these borders and also the terrain. Here in the Blaine sector, with Canada just feet away, they're actually on pace to see twice as many apprehensions as they did last year.
Since the borders reopened after COVID, Blaine sector has been on an increase. The whole northern border has kind of been on an increase since 2022 when the border opened. So from 2022 to now, we're about 500% higher in encounters than
That
we were
seems like a big
before.
number.
Yeah, we had approximately 500 in 2022, and this year we're projected to hit over 3,000 arrest encounters for Blaine sector.
The numbers may not seem like a big deal in comparison to what we've seen along the southern border, but resources are limited here. Budgets have been cut, and a lot of agents were moved to the southern border over the last few years to help with their influx. But human and drug smuggling attempts and seizures aren't just happening along the physical border. They're also happening here at the Blaine Port of Entry that separates the United States from Canada.
So these are the primary booths. We have 3 booths here. At the moment, there's only 2 open.
Okay.
On an average day, we'll see anywhere from 800 to 1,400 trucks coming through.
Since 2021, the northern border has also seen a sharp increase in the number of people trying to cross into the U.S. that are on the terror watch list. In 2023 and 2024, terror watch list apprehensions were more than 6 times higher than what the southern border reported.
We are seeing these numbers rise. What is that saying to you?
Threat is everywhere. There are people that we do not want in our country. On any given day, there are folks that we do not let in that are known as either associates or connection to terror groups.
Agents at the port scan and search everyday traffic and commercial vehicles. They're also in charge of inspecting freight that comes through our border by train.
Last year, we encountered approximately 70 undocumented individuals from Mexico. Some of these carts or hoppers, they're full of them. 24, 25 individuals at one time. We've had 14, couple hiding in the places. Now, we're doing the best of all possible worlds. We're doing the best that we can with the given resources. I need money, I need facilities. We're 10 years behind. Technology is moving at a fast pace. Our infrastructure, the backbone, isn't there yet.
The uncertainty of who will run our country and how they will approach Homeland Security has left places like this in limbo, desperate for more funding and resources, yet living out the mission every day to protect our nation at all costs.
In grand scheme of things, yes, the northern border is safe. Can I guarantee that? Absolutely not. It's wide open. It's probably one of the world's largest unprotected borders. I think in the end of the day, no matter what the political tensions are, protecting our borders and protecting our nation is a priority.
A big concern at the north and southern border as well. Our thanks to Maria for that. Still much more to get to tonight. Coming up, she's a WNBA legend, a social activist, and now the first WNBA player to become a team co-owner. My conversation with Renee Montgomery. But next, WNBA champions at last. The New York Liberty's long and hard fight for the win by the numbers.
many elephants have you killed?
True natural beauty, one of the last of its kind. But this comes at a cost. 5 countries, 5 incredible real stories of adventure, danger,
We have to go.
and deceit. Where are we going next? We got this ongoing search for the animal we've been trying to find. These are the last lands. The national parks around the world that have to be saved.
Yo, partners.
We're not partners. I'm the detective and you are the consultant. I see you brought your baby to a crime scene.
She is just spectating.
You're a single mom with 3 kids pretending to be a cop.
I am not pretending. I spot things that detectives miss. Still think my theory's flimsy?
That big brain of hers is going to help us close a lot of cases.
I'm just out here super copping.
High Potential, all new Tuesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Are you ready? They are ready. Covering the biggest events in the country right now.
There's a lot going on here this morning.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in too. I'll be here.
I am here and so happy.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
Michael, George, Clara, Ginger.
I did terrible things. I hurt a lot of people.
I know who you are.
Ball is in the air. You're special.
Yes, it's a touchdown.
What if God made me this way?
FX's American Sports Story. Aaron Hernandez. All new Tuesdays at 10 on FX. Stream on Hulu.
They were 21 and 18 when they committed their crime, and they were raised in a house of hate. When can we as a society say we made a mistake?
Do you think the Menendez brothers will walk free someday?
I don't think that they deserve to be in prison until they die.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are stone-cold murderers.
Was this a miscarriage of justice?
Absolutely.
This came down to one question. Do you believe the Menendez brothers or not?
The Menendez brothers, monsters or victims, now streaming on Hulu.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food.
It's all coming up on GMA 3.
You're gonna love it. We'll see you then.
GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us afternoons
for everything you need to know.
I love that.
Me too.
Reporting from the New Year's celebration in Times Square, New York, I'm Alex Perche. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Stewart, 28 years in the making. The New York Liberty are WNBA champions.
So much excitement there. It should go down as one of the greatest WNBA games of all time. Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, and the New York Liberty taking Game 5 of last night's finals in overtime at the Barclays Center. The series, a hard-fought classic against the Minnesota Lynx, and we're going to break it all down for you in tonight's By the Numbers. It wasn't the first WNBA finals for the New York Liberty. It was actually their 6th. They were 0-5 before last night, losing last year to the Las Vegas Aces, and also losing 4 of the first 6 finals between 1997 and 2002. Last night was the first winner-take-all game in WNBA finals history to be won in overtime. For the Minnesota Lynx, it was their 7th finals. They're now 4-3 and have appeared in more finals than any other team. Hard to believe now, but it wasn't until 2005 that the WNBA began having best-of-5 finals. It was best-of-1 back in 1997 and best-of-3 from 98 through 2004. The WNBA clearly hitting their stride in popularity, with attendance this season up 48% over last season. And call it the Caitlin Clark effect. WNBA merchandise was also up this season over the last sixfold at their online store and flagship location in New York City. And we still have lots more ahead here on Prime. The man behind the Varsity Blues college admission scandal is speaking out. What he has to say about the parents who are still asking for his services.
Did you kill Mary Yoder?
Sorry. No, I did not kill Mary Yoder. So it was a normal day until Mary started getting sick. No one really knew what was happening.
Her eyes just looked terrified. In less than 48 hours, my mom went from her healthy self to having died.
This is a mystery. How did she die? They begin to do this autopsy.
It's just screaming, toxin, toxin, toxin.
Did somebody intentionally do this to her?
When the tests came back, I thought, holy, are you kidding me?
I had dated Adam. I was scared of him. It changed the way I see the world.
She was really afraid for her life.
I do think Bill could have killed Mary. His wife died in July, and in November, he was dating his sister-in-law.
There was nothing in the world that was making sense at that point.
Caitlin Conley was guilty as sin.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry, I'm scared.
This girl thought she was smarter than everybody else. But there's another side to Caitlin Conley.
Well, I'm not buying this little Miss Innocent game.
Sequoia's a very small town. Everybody knows everybody.
My garden club is very divided. People think she's innocent. I think she's guilty.
Never heard of a case like this. Maybe a thriller.
It was pure evil.
We weren't quite sure what was coming next. I know it wasn't me. Sorry. So, if it wasn't me, who was it?
Little Miss Innocent. Passion, poison, prison. Only on Hulu.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news, ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting across the globe. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Attention teachers, no child is to be sent to the principal's office today. Kids, if you want to do crime, now's the time. Happy first day of school.
Weren't there like 4 more of these?
Yeah, we were robbed.
Hey, buy 3, get 1 free.
I'ma call your mother on you. Bring the rest back here, boy.
The mastermind behind the Varsity Blues college admissions scandal is now out of jail, and he spoke with our Kana Whitworth about the scheme that landed him behind bars and what's next for him. Here's Kana's report.
I take full responsibility for everything I did. I am wrong, 100% wrong.
Please step back.
Prosecutors say Rick Singer led a decades-long conspiracy to cheat the college admissions process to help some parents of wealthy children, like Full House actress Lori Loughlin.
Do you have any regrets?
And Felicity Huffman of Desperate Housewives, who did it without their children's knowledge. And he says he's still in high demand. Even on the days after the scandal broke, Singer says parents continued to text him.
And I got 93 texts. I just been on national TV. They got everybody in my face, right? Within an hour. 93 texts. Are you guys still coming this week?
Singer pled guilty in 2019 to multiple federal charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and money laundering.
I'm remorseful. I feel horrible that I hurt so many families, so many kids, my own family, my own son, and all those that I affected in this process.
As part of his scheme, Singer says he offered parents several doors to get their children into elite universities, including a so-called side door, is what Singer used to help the children of celebrity parents like Lachlan and Huffman receive guaranteed acceptance. By helping fake their athletic credentials, like Lachlan's daughter, Olivia Jade, seen here, posing in a staged rowing photo, or cheating on standardized tests.
And is that where you thought, I can do this again and again and again and make money?
The money thing had nothing to do with it, because the money thing, we didn't make money on it.
I have to be honest with you, I have a hard time believing that money had nothing to do with it. When prosecutors say you brought in some $25 million.
No, the $25 million has to do with the donations and, quote, they called it the bribes, had nothing to do with the test taking.
But they say you netted $14 million.
And while he says he didn't make money on testing, prosecutors say Singer transferred, spent, or otherwise used more than $15 million for his benefit throughout the scheme. And to cover it up, they say he used his nonprofit to disguise bribes as charitable donations.
I said, I never ever thought I bribed anybody. I never even ever used that word. It never even entered my mind. It was a donation.
But as part of his guilty plea, Singer admitted to facilitating bribing those coaches and university administrators to guarantee his clients' children would be admitted as recruited athletes.
But if they needed to raise $250,000 or $500,000 for the program, they would call me and say, hey, I have a spot. Do you have a family that would like to come here?
But says his scheme didn't take spots away from other legitimate athletes.
Do you fully believe, though, that that spot wasn't important to somebody else that really wanted to wear that jersey?
Doesn't matter.
To play for their school?
Doesn't matter. That's up to the coach.
You say you've taken responsibility for what has been done. You still view this as a victimless crime?
Yes, ma'am.
And you now believe that people will trust you?
Yes, ma'am.
To help you get their kids into college still?
It's already going on right now.
At your sentencing, you did talk about your sorrow, and you talked about bringing great embarrassment to families in universities, and you apologized to the students who applied fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Are they not victims in this?
No, all I wanted to do, because what I did is cause chaos in their minds, cause doubt in their minds.
Provocative conversation there. Kana joins us now from Los Angeles. And Kana, I'm curious what struck you most about this interview.
You know, Lindsay, it's interesting. This is a man with a really strong work ethic, but the ethics of his work are really in question here. And when I pressed him on that, he pushed back. He tried to tell me, no, I care about these families. You could hear him. He maintains he thinks that this is a victimless crime. And he continued to point the finger at what he sees as a larger problem here with these institutions and these coaches themselves, Lindsay.
And what did he tell you about his plans to provide college counseling services again?
Right, so he says it's essentially already happening. Parents are already calling him. And Lindsay, he talked to me about helping students find the right schools. He also is interested in eliminating what he considers the paper ceiling, right? Having a degree to find a job. He also wants to help people enter the workforce with or without a degree, Lindsay, but either way, he's going to be doing it as a convicted felon in the largest college admissions scam ever prosecuted by the DOJ.
Parents are still going back. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Kana Whitworth for us. Thanks so much, Kana. Global icon and queen of Tejano music, Selena Quintanilla, was awarded the National Medal of Arts posthumously today. Her sister Suzette said on social media this remarkable achievement celebrates Selena's enduring impact on her music and legacy. President Biden awarded the medal to a total of 20 artists in a ceremony this evening. Other recipients include Steven Spielberg, Spike Lee, Missy Elliott, and Queen Latifah. The late artist Ruth Asawa and chef Anthony Bourdain were also awarded posthumously. It has been a record-breaking season for the WNBA with viewership at an all-time high. But according to two-time WNBA champion and Atlanta Dream co-owner Renee Montgomery, they are just getting started. I had a chance to sit down with Renee as she reflects on her one-of-a-kind journey from the court to the boardroom in the new documentary, A Radical Act, Renee Montgomery.
I was trying to do something that was going to change everything.
First time for a WNBA player to become in executive chair, co-owner. How do you feel about this transition that you've made?
It's crazy to even still hear sometimes, but transition-wise, I always talk about being an athlete. You really are prepared for life because there wasn't a playbook that I had to become these positions and to excel at it. But I feel like in sports, you learn so many different things that I sports played my whole life, and everybody that works in the Dream office, they know that I just treat it like we're like literally a sports team. So in the mornings, it's like, what's up, squad? Good morning. In the emails, you know, I talk exactly how I would talk in sports because there's just so many similarities between business and sports that I would have had no idea because I was in the sports world my whole entire life. I hadn't really seen this happen where a player goes from straight player to owner exec.
She felt like she could be more effective off the court than on the court.
Tell me about the documentary that's coming up.
Yeah, so it was honestly a journey of change. Like the documentary watched me go from player to co-owner VP, and what does that look like and what does that feel like? Our director, Sandrine, it was a one-person crew, so it didn't feel like there was a lot of cameras around, but there was a camera around. And so to have those 3 years of my life on top of all the footage that my Snook and Diddy, which is my parents, have been just collecting. Like, they're collectors of all the things that happened in my life. So there's footage that I haven't even seen because it was lost on a VHS tape or a DVD where there's no way to even view it. You know, they got all of that archival footage along with footage where my wife is following me around the house on those big moments that happened. And it's just like a culmination of everything. And just to have that put into 1 hour and 44 minutes, it's uncomfortable because everybody's like looking into my life and world, but it's crazy to see your life in that lens where when you're living it, you really don't even know that that's how things are going. So I think a lot of people are curious about the name A Radical Act and why would we call it that? And the real concept is it's radical to think that you can achieve these unachievable goals. It's radical to even say them out loud sometimes because you don't know what people are going to say, you don't know what people are going to think, you don't want to fail in front of the world. And so a radical act is just like believing that you can get that goal that you don't even want to say out loud. So that's kind of the whole concept of the documentary, and it's been a journey, so it's exciting.
You certainly made national headlines when you decided to sit out the 2020 season as a result of bringing attention to police brutality. What can you trace in your childhood that helped lead you to that decision?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because when you look at your childhood from an adult point of view, things are so different. Even my parents keeping newspaper articles where my stats would have been printed not right, or even seeing pictures of myself holding up a sign that says like, change has come. I don't remember those moments, but those moments are also ingrained in me. And so I just think that like, life has a way of working itself out where I'm the daughter of 2 HBCU students, so I understood like Black excellence and understood what that looks like from a firsthand account. So then when I see things happening, it's a no-brainer. What I'm saying to me is a no-brainer, but then people are also calling me an activist for saying these things that I just grew up learning. And so I think that just how I was raised, I didn't even notice it at the time, but then when it came 2020, it was like, oh, I'm ready for this, I'm prepared for this.
Do you think that things have changed in any way for Black female athletes?
I definitely do. I think awareness has changed. I don't necessarily know if things have completely changed because you have to look at the WNBA as a minority league. And so I don't know if the marketing matches the number in a sense of minorities. Are they getting as much pub? But I know that the awareness is there. So I get excitement knowing that like at least we're aware now of these things. And even women's sports as a whole was getting less than 5% of media attention. We know that's now risen to 15%. So if we keep being more aware and things happen, then I think it's changing.
Do you ever think about your legacy and what you'd like it to be?
It's crazy because even as it's happening, I wasn't even thinking about it as a player. You know, a lot of people would talk about championship winning is a habit. And somebody was talking about my career, and it's like, okay, 3 championships in high school, 1 in college, 2 in the pros. And when people say it back to back like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, like that is exciting. But when you're in the fire, it's like I wasn't thinking about the 2 I won. I'm thinking about the next 2 I want to win. I feel like I'm in that moment right now where I know there's a lot of barriers being broken. I know that there's a lot of change happening. And I'm not really thinking about it. I'm still in the fire. I'm thinking about the Atlanta dream and how can we turn up as a squad and how can we turn up as a business. I mean, I feel like we won a championship this year with the Atlanta dream on the business side. We sold out all 20 of our home games. And when I was a player, it was ghost town. And so we would run out and we would have to be our own 6 man where we get in the huddle and be like, all right, squad, listen, the crowd's not here, but we're here, you know? Our players don't have to worry about that. They're gonna run out in front of fans. And so those are things that, like, I'm in the fire. Shouts to our front office because, like, that's a championship, that's a dub.
What's the next championship, so to speak, that you want to win?
I think the next championship for us is getting big brands to buy in at the same pace that they buy in on other leagues. You know, like even us being in Atlanta, there's every sports team known to man in Atlanta. And shouts to Atlanta sports because we kind of are elevating right now. But we would love for all the brands in Atlanta to support the Atlanta dream the same way they support the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta United, Atlanta Braves. There's some companies that they're all in on a lot of the men's pro sports teams. We want to get that all-in feel from investments in brands where the deals that they offer show that they're all in. And so I think that's the next championship, just people understanding the value of women's sports.
Thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate the time.
Me.
And you can catch A Radical Act, Renee Montgomery, now streaming on Roku. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, we have new images from the deadly collapse of an aluminum walkway in coastal Georgia and details about those who died when they plunged into the water. But first, with 15 days to go until the election, the latest from the campaign trail.
911, what's your emergency?
Now streaming, 911 is delightfully wild.
You ever seen anything like this before? It's a V-NATO.
It's one of the most compelling.
You managed to get a 400-pound tiger into a studio apartment.
And explosive.
Athena's on that flight, isn't she?
She's flying it. Shows on television.
I love you.
Tell me in person.
911, Thursdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Hollywood Studios want us to make a movie of our podcast.
It's a fabulous cast.
Action.
I'm nervous playing you.
The fearlessness, the complexity.
Oh, stop. Unless you had more to say.
I don't need an algorithm to tell me that this is box office gold.
Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and for bundle subscribers on Disney+. Wednesday night.
Oh my God.
We're back. The biggest and best season yet.
Oh, no way.
John Fiona's here. What would you do?
Here we go.
So the question is,
what would you do?
You see somebody in trouble, try to help. Can I give you a hug? Is that okay?
You have tears in your eyes.
Thank you for standing up for us.
Oh my God! Look at John! It's what would you do? I'm on it, girl.
now on Wednesday nights on ABC.
Trick or treat!
When I flick this switch, there'll be a horrible noise and a terrible odor.
Will it hurt?
Pain like you've never known.
Seems risky. I am much satisfied.
What? You scared? This is happiness.
We love Halloween. Got me.
He's a bit silly.
Turning the machine off. Do you feel good?
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our Combat Operations Center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions.
Operational nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you.
Ismail? David.
David.
Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We have a lot of news to get to tonight, including the dead heat now between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris as they set their sights on the battleground state of Wisconsin, as Harris brings former Congresswoman Liz Cheney onto the trail in an effort to get disenchanted Republicans on her side, while Trump meets with hurricane victims in North Carolina. Plus, the fiery images after a private chopper slammed into a radio tower, killing all 4 people on board, including a child. And now we learn days before this crash, the FAA warned about the lights on that tower. And day 4 of nationwide blackouts in Cuba, the response on the streets and the government. But we do begin with a race for the White House now. 15 days to go. I guess you could call it the home stretch. Millions of Americans have already voted, in fact. Vice President Harris is campaigning with former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney in the key Rust Belt states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Former President Trump spent his time in the hurricane disaster zone in North Carolina today, saying he's confident the storm will not affect the vote and that he's impressed with the efforts in that state. Our Rachel Scott is with the former president in North Carolina in a moment, but first, ABC's Mary Bruce is with the vice president in Wisconsin.
With just 15 days left in this hard-fought election, Vice President Kamala Harris today barnstorming the 3 Rust Belt states that could be key to her victory: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, hitting counties where she thinks she can pick up Republican votes.
Let's get to it.
With her at every stop, her most prominent Republican supporter, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
There are moments in the history of our country which challenge us, each of us, to really decide, do we stand for those things that we talk about, including a particular country over party.
In the Detroit suburbs, Cheney reminding voters what Donald Trump did on January 6th.
He sat in his dining room and he watched the attack on television. He watched it. People pleaded with him to tell the mob to leave, and he wouldn't. And he watched law enforcement officers be brutally beaten. He watched it. That's a depravity that, to me, and you know, I think to anyone who's taken the oath of office, makes someone absolutely unfit ever to be president again. Now,
the Harris campaign well aware this race will come down to 7 key battleground states. Tonight, New Washington Post polling shows the contest beyond tight. Harris with a slight edge in Pennsylvania, up 2 points, 49-47. In Michigan, leading Trump 49-47. And in Wisconsin, Harris with a 3-point advantage, 50-47. She also leads slightly in Georgia, 51-47, while Trump has the advantage in Arizona, up 49-46, and in North Carolina, where Trump leads by 3 points, 50-47. And in Nevada, the polls have them tied, 48-48, all polls within the margin of error. With the race this close, the Harris team trying to reach every voter who may still be up for grabs. Cheney with this message to reluctant Republicans.
it's not about party. It's about right and wrong. I would just remind people, if you're at all concerned, you can vote your conscience and not ever have to say a word to anybody. And there will be millions of Republicans who do that on November 5th.
Our thanks to Mary Bruce. Meantime, former President Trump was in North Carolina, a state that he won twice and hopes to win again. Tonight, the daughter of famed golfer Arnold Palmer is weighing in on what Trump said about her father over the weekend. Here's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, Donald Trump zeroing in on battleground North Carolina, a state he won twice before and must win again. The former president in Asheville this morning, surrounded by debris from Hurricane Helene, saying he's confident the storm will not affect the vote.
No, I think in a way it's the opposite. I mean, we're so impressed, and
I think they have a pretty good system here.
Tonight in a Greenville rally, Trump presenting the election as a stark choice.
This election is a choice between whether we will have think of this, 4 more years. Could you stand it? It's 4 more years of incompetence, stupidity, and failure and disaster, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
President Donald.
Trump has been on the blitz through the battleground states, over the weekend stopping in all-important Pennsylvania and making waves for his vulgar comments about former golf star Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Tonight, Palmer's daughter criticizing those comments in an interview with ABC News.
To come there and talk about, hackneyed anecdotes from the locker room seemed disrespectful and inappropriate to me. The people in Western Pennsylvania deserve substance, not stories that intimate a closer relationship than actually existed.
And after this photo op at a McDonald's in suburban Philadelphia, Trump working the fry station in the drive-through window. The former president asked whether he would raise the minimum wage, which currently stands at $7.25. Trump only saying this.
Well, I think these people work hard. They're great. And I just saw a process that's beautiful.
Today, Vice President Kamala Harris calling Trump out.
So there is a big difference between Donald Trump and me on a number of issues, including this, where I absolutely believe we must raise minimum wage and that hardworking Americans, whether they're working at McDonald's or anywhere else, should have at least the ability to be able to take care of their family and take care of themselves in a way that allows them to actually be able to sustain their needs.
Rachel Scott for us tonight. Now to the investigation into a deadly helicopter crash in Houston. Maria Villarreal has that story.
Tonight in Houston, 4 people, including a child, are dead. An investigation underway after the helicopter they were in crashed into a 1,000-foot-tall radio tower and exploded.
Get out the way. Let's go. Let's go.
The fireball crashing into an open field near a residential area. No one on the ground was hurt. Our Houston station, KTRK's traffic reporter, Don Armstrong, saying the radio tower is hard to see, even in daytime.
It's not painted well, and the lights are not the strobes that some of the towers around town have on them. So if you know where the tower is, you navigate around it. But in this case, apparently, that was not the case.
3 days before the incident, the FAA posted a notice warning that some of the tower's lights were, quote, unserviceable. In this surveillance video, it appears at least one light on the tower is on as the chopper approaches from the right.
Thanks to Maria for that. Next, to new images from the desperate moments after the catastrophic failure of an aluminum walkway in Georgia. Here's ABC's Faith Abube in Georgia.
Tonight, dramatic new video showing the chaotic scene after a dock gangway collapse in Georgia that killed 7 people. Oh my God, where's mine? A dozen victims seen in the water, desperately holding on to the railings. It was after a celebration on Sapelo Island for the Gullah Geechee community, descendants of enslaved Africans. Please, Lord. Witnesses telling us they heard a loud crack Saturday afternoon, and then suddenly the aluminum walkway plunged into the water.
We were trying to throw out the life jackets, but the current was so hard it was just taking people away.
Diane Medley Bloodworth was thrown into the water with her 80-year-old aunt, Bertha.
And I came up screaming for Auntie. And I didn't see her at first. And I see her hanging onto a rope that was just hanging off of the pier there.
Her Aunt Bertha rescued by college student Catherine Sneed.
I heard a voice saying, "Help me, I can't swim." So I ran towards the edge of the dock. I got on my stomach and I reached my hands out and Miss Bertha grabbed me.
Catherine and Bertha reuniting in the hospital, where Bertha remains in the ICU. Among the 7 who lost their lives, 93-year-old retired school teacher Carlotta McIntosh, Charles Houston, a beloved chaplain, And tragedy striking the family of Zelda Johnson, who lost her cousin, Queen Welch, the two taking this photo moments before the accident. Zelda also losing her husband, William Johnson II, a father of two.
Our thanks to Faith for that. And we still have much more to get to tonight. Coming up, Selling Sexy. We're looking at how Victoria's Secret came to dominate the world of lingerie and then collapsed. But next, day 4 of nationwide blackouts in Cuba, the response on the streets and in the government.
How many elephants have you killed? True natural beauty, one of the last of its kind. But this comes at a cost. 5 countries, 5 incredible real stories of adventure, danger,
We have to go.
and deceit. Where are we going next? We got this ongoing search for the animal we've been trying to find. These are the last lands. The national parks around the world that have to be saved. There.
They were 21 and 18 when they committed their crime, and they were raised in a house of hate. When can we as a society say we made a mistake?
Do you think the Menendez brothers will walk free someday?
I don't think that they deserve to be in prison until they die.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are stone-cold murderers.
Was this a miscarriage of justice?
Absolutely. This came down to one question. Do you believe the Menendez brothers or not?
The Menendez Brothers, Monsters or Victims, now streaming on Hulu.
This ship is heaven. There should be no guilt on a pleasure cruise. Doctor, it's your job to keep everybody alive.
No pulse. She's in VFib. 1, 2, 3. Clear.
I have a pulse.
You're gonna be okay.
Reporting from Santa Fe, New Mexico, I'm Linsey Davis. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. We're tracking several headlines around the world. Cuba is bracing for a 4th night of nationwide blackouts tonight. The prolonged power shortage has sparked a number of small protests and a stern government warning that any unrest will be punished. Voters in Moldova have backed proposed changes to the Eastern European country's constitution and a commitment to join the European Union. The referendum passed by just 1% of the vote, a shock to many who had expected broad support for EU membership. European Commission election watchers said they had witnessed, quote, unprecedented interference by Russia in the vote. An Australian senator was removed from Parliament after yelling at King Charles III following the speech to the country's lawmakers today. Senator Linda Thorpe's outburst comes after leaders of all 6 Australian states declined invitations to attend a reception for the visiting royals, saying they would prefer an Australian citizen as head of state rather than the British monarch. Women in lace, leather, and feathers. It's the iconic image of one of the most innovative brands in retail history, a chain of tiny boutiques that grew into a lingerie empire to become one of the best-known secrets in America. Puck correspondent Lauren Sherman and The Cut's Chantal Fernandez interviewed dozens of former and present executives to bring us the story of the rise and fall of Victoria's Secret. In their book, Selling Sexy, Victoria's Secret and the Unraveling of an American Icon, Lauren and Chantal, kind enough to join us in studio. Thank you both so much for being in here. Lauren, let's start with you. Why did you decide that you wanted to take a look at this really icon when it comes to the brand of fashion and sexy clothing?
We've been covering the fashion business for combined, I don't know, like 40 years or something, a long time. And thinking about what deserves a book and not an article. And this is an epic story. It's a story of American entrepreneurship. It's a story of American culture, because consumer culture is American culture. There was nothing that kind of paid close attention to Victoria's Secret and the impact it had on our society. And we wanted to unpack that.
And how would you say, because by the 1970s, it feels like Victoria's Secret was already a household name, a fixture really in most malls. Would you say that they really were able to shape America's ideals of the standards of beauty and what is sexy?
Yes, particularly as they expanded throughout American malls and began to market using the angels and supermodels, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. They were so effective at using mass media to promote their brand and to promote this idea of American beauty, American femininity, American women success. It was all wrapped up in very powerful image, and it was so successful that it came to define an American beauty standard.
And you all write that beauty standards eventually became unattainable. How do you think that the company's focus on really selling a specific kind of sexy led to that?
Well, the question is whether or not Victoria's Secret was reflecting the culture or making the culture. And sometimes they were shaping the culture. They were saying, they were putting the most famous models in the world on the cover of their catalogs and on their catwalk and saying, this is what beauty is. I think it was deeply influential.
Yeah, they didn't create this beauty standard, but they sort of perfected it and commercialized it and shared it with America on a mass scale that, you know, high fashion luxury advertising didn't have the same kind of reach by virtue of the product and the price.
By 1982, Les Wexner, a fast fashion pioneer, was able to save Victoria's Secret from bankruptcy. Do you think that this really marks the moment that Victoria's Secret started selling sexy?
Absolutely. By the time he acquired Victoria's Secret, he already had a huge network of stores. He had capital. He was the reason why Victoria's Secret was able to expand so quickly across the nation and had the executives and the wherewithal to really reach people, because when originally the boutiques were much more upscale, and he brought it into a more accessible price point.
Now, Wexner also, there's kind of a wrinkle that's further complicated because of his, two-decade relationship that he had with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that the current leadership of Victoria's Secret chose to not participate with the writing of your book. But how did you all write around kind of some of the sensitivities related to that?
Well, we addressed it head on, but we didn't want to make the book about the relationship between Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, because the story of Victoria's Secret is not about that. That's part of it, but it's not the whole story. The whole story is there are a million amazing, interesting executives who did pioneering things, who worked there, and we wanted to highlight them as well.
Its greatest impact was a reputational hit when the company was already at a really weak moment. And that was a lot of what we zeroed in on, is what did the association with this really disturbing figure mean for the brand when it was already embroiled in some media criticism around being out of touch.
And it seems like, to me, the fashion shows really became iconic, part of the brand, really. And why did those go away?
They went away because they sort of fell out of fashion, and there wasn't enough demand for them at that point. And the company was going through so much upheaval when they stopped doing them 5 years ago. They're bringing it back because they need to reconnect with the customer. There's a sense of nostalgia for the times when people celebrated those fashion shows, and they think that they've grown and are going to be able to nail it. Whether they are and whether the customer cares is still debatable.
It feels like over time the fashion industry has moved more toward inclusivity and diversity, and that Victoria's Secret may have been a little slower to adapt to or adopt these ideals of beauty as bringing more people into the tent. Why do you think that is?
Their strategy had worked for them for so long, and they were such a large company. Obviously, there should have been more debate within the company at the highest levels of leadership to say, culture is really changing and we have to respond to this. But their strategy had worked for them, and they thought they could continue to control that relationship with the consumer by sticking with what had worked. And were blind to some of those changes that were a lot of other fashion brands had already been working on.
Do you think that the company can reinvent itself at this point, or is the damage too deep?
It's a giant company. There are a lot of people who still buy bras from Victoria's Secret. And so, yeah, of course they have a chance. They still have a customer base. But Connecting with the customer is harder today than ever. We live in a really fragmented culture, and customers aren't as loyal as they used to be. And so winning them back or winning them over in the first place if they're really young is going to be extremely challenging and require a very, very sharp strategy.
Lauren and Chantel, we thank you both so much for this work. We want to let our viewers know that you can find Selling Sexy, Victoria's Secret and the Unraveling of an American Icon anywhere books are sold. And we should note that in 2019, Wexner accused Epstein of misappropriating vast sums of his personal fortune more than a decade earlier. Epstein was also accused of trying to involve himself in the recruitment of lingerie models for the Victoria's Secret catalog. When ABC News reached out to L Brands asking whether Epstein had ever served as a talent scout for Victoria's Secret, the company did not respond to a request for comment. We reached out for comment from Victoria's Secret. They sent us a statement that reads, "While we appreciate the interest in the history of our company, we remain focused on our present and future. Today, we are guided by our vision to celebrate and support women in all we do. We are proud of the progress we've made and continue to make, driven by an unwavering leadership team with shared values and relentless vision to provide the best products and experiences to help women express their confidence, sexiness, and power." And still to come, Grammy winner and multi-platinum singer-songwriter Alessia Cara is in the house. We're getting the scoop on her big album news and what inspires her to keep creating.
I did terrible things. I hurt a lot of people.
I know who you are.
Ball is in the air! You're special.
Yes, it's a touchdown.
What if God made me this way?
FX's American Sports Story. Aaron Hernandez. All new Tuesdays at 10 on FX. Stream on Hulu.
When you're 61 years old, you have very few opportunities to change your life. This time, I have to be ready. This is about everybody like me. I see a future, which is not what I felt like for a really long time. I don't feel invisible now.
Wednesday night.
Oh my God!
Oh, no way.
John Keona's here. What would you do?
And Wednesday night, what would you do if you saw someone stage a slip and fall for some quick cash?
He squirted water down me.
Oh, we would not do that.
I saw you. I'll testify.
Drama.
I think we should break it now. What if people say it's none of your business? If I told you what I'd say, you can't record it.
The question is,
What would you do?
Wednesday night at 10/9 Central on ABC.
America's #1 most watched daytime talk show is ABC's The View.
You all heard it here first. I love it. I'm there for it.
Hot topics, political views.
That's what we're about.
Voices that matter. It all goes down right here.
That's why it's called the what? The View. I love it. I'm all in. Second that. This is going to be must-see TV, and so much could happen.
From her breakout hit Here to winning the Grammy for Best New Artist a few years back, multi-platinum singer-songwriter Alessia Cara is often celebrated for her authenticity, raw emotion, and lyrical depth. And just this morning on GMA, she announced her 4th studio album, Love and Hyperbole, will be released on Valentine's Day. And from the album, here's a bit from a new single titled Dead Man.
If you're really there, then why can't I walk right through you, talking to a dead man?
Alessia Cara, kind enough to join us now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it was, what, 10 years ago that you joined Def Jam. You were just 18 years at that time. What would you say has changed about you? How have you grown, and how has that impacted your music?
I mean, definitely a lot has changed. Like, you know, being an 18-year-old to now 28-year-old, going into my 30s. You know, I was going into my 20s when I started, and I mean, the 20s for anybody, you know, can be extremely intense. But I think going through your 20s in front of the world can be, you know, a challenge. And there's a lot that I went through, good and bad, and I feel like, you know, my music has reflected that. Each album that I've released has just, you know, reflected a certain moment in my life, and going into this next one, I just feel, you know, while there are still good and bad moments, I feel like all of those things still stand firm in themselves, and I feel just like a lot more unwavering, you know, more comfortable in my own skin.
Very good.
You know?
That's the hope as we all age.
Yes.
So Love and Hyperbole, give us a sense of why you decided to title the album that.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's kind of a literal title. I think a lot of the songs do reflect a lot of emotions, you know, surrounding love, and also a little bit of hyperbole. There are many aspects to falling in love, I think, and in order to, like, for me, in order to find, like, the right kind of love, the right kind of self-love, the right kind of romantic love, I had to kind of come to terms with and accept the love that no longer served me and the love that kind of, you know, wasn't necessarily the best. I guess this album is just kind of that process, you know, and all of the good and bad emotions that come with that. And I think that duality is sort of why I wanted to name the album Love and Hyperbole. Those kind of like two coexisting, very real sentiments, you know?
Yes, I was going to say exactly that. It's something that will resonate with so many people. It's deep, but people can relate to it for sure. Now, you recorded this album live, which is kind of unique for modern pop. Why did you decide to do it this way?
I feel like the reason that I started music in the first place, and so much of the music that I love to listen to is, you know, music from the past, music that was, you know, recorded all in the same room and live, and because these lyrics particularly were so personal and emotional for me, I felt like the best way to reflect them was, of course, include some contemporary elements, but just kind of, you know, record it very raw and have it reflect a lot of the music that I listened to growing up and all the music that I still really love, which is, you know, that music from that time.
And on GMA today, you premiered one of the singles off of your 4th album, Isn't It Obvious?
Isn't it obvious? You know that we got enough. Isn't it obvious?
John Mayer also graces the track with his guitar. What was it like to collaborate with him, and did that change the sound at all?
I mean, for sure. I think if anything, of course, it just elevated it. I think anything that he touches just sounds better. That's just like, he's just such a treasure in the music world. So getting to work with him was incredible. I mean, it sort of came about very impulsively. I was in the studio and I just like had the thought of like, oh, he would be so cool on this. And I was talking to my collaborator, producer Jakob, and it kind of started as a joke where we're like, yeah, like he's gonna do a solo here, cool, whatever. And somehow, you know, along the way, it became real, and we just like
Spoken into the universe.
Spoken into the universe, yeah. And we just like got the courage to ask him if he would do it, fully expecting him to say no, and he said yes, and he was so generous with his time, with his, like, you know, musical genius, and he just made the song so much better.
Alessia Cara, we thank you so much for joining us. You can listen to the latest tracks from Love and Hyperbole, Alessia's 4th studio album, wherever you stream your music, and keep an ear out for the full album dropping this Valentine's Day. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
Wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland.
Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi.
Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw.
We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights wherever you stream your news. Only on ABC News Live.
How many elephants have you killed?
True natural beauty, one of the last of its kind. But this comes at a cost. 5 countries, 5 incredible real stories of adventure, danger,
We have to go.
and deceit. Where are we going next? We got this ongoing search for the animal we've been trying to find. These are the last lands. The national parks around the world that have to be saved.
this switch, there'll be a horrible noise and a terrible odor.
Will it hurt?
Pain like you've never known. Oh!
Seems risky. I am much satisfied.
What? You scared? This is happiness.
We love Halloween. Got me.
He's a bit silly.
Turning the machine off. Do you feel good?
Reporting from the path of Hurricane Helene in Tallahassee, Florida, I'm Mike Ajachi. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
America's #1 most watched daytime talk show is ABC's The View.
You all heard it here first. This is going to be must-see TV. And so much could happen. That's why it's called the what? The View.
DC is getting ready to wrap up the summer season, but before they close...
If you are driving in the district today, you should be aware of
Saturday to Sunday, Bruce Springsteen concert over at Nats Park.
I'm here in the nation's capital, joining the legion of fans for whom this journey has become a sacred pilgrimage, seeing Bruce Springsteen in concert.
See Bruce Springsteen?
Millions and millions have seen Bruce live, but not many ever see this. ABC News has rare backstage access to one of Springsteen's tour stops with the E Street Band.
You've just seen the heart-stopping, pants-dropping, earth-shocking, hard rock, booty-shaking, heart-breaking, love-making, Viagra-taking, history-making, legendary E!
The E Street Band, by now a well-oiled musical machine, has been backing the boss for the better part of 50 years. And just like Bruce, they're not slowing down. Steve, how are you?
Wow, this is cool.
This is pretty cool. Still a thrill?
Yeah. I never see it like this, you know? It is still a thrill. You never take this for granted, George. Never.
Well, if you